の種のよ語らい重なり固まり絡まり一緒にいること絶対必然でもあなた大事な夢を描く終わるまではずっとこで待っているよ
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Office Hours stream. I, as always, am your host, Nubbins Inc. Welcome on in. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's been a minute. I hope you've all been well. I hope you've all been having a wonderful time with your respective content creation journeys. And for those of you who are new to the channel, new to the stream, welcome to the Office Hours. My name is Nubbins Inc., and I am here to help you be a better streamer, help you be a better content creator, and to arm you with the knowledge that you need to succeed at this thing we all call streaming. I am so excited to welcome my guest this week, Sana Vibes, who is here to talk with you all and myself all about monetization. Sana, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Please tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Tell everybody a little bit about your journey into content creation, all of that good background, origin story information.
Sure. So, again, my name is Sana. I've been streaming on and off on Twitch for about 7-8 years. I started my streaming journey back in 2016. I initially started playing Overwatch 1 on Xbox, and I found this little Twitch app on my Xbox, and I was like, ooh, what's this? And so I decided to venture off and do a little streaming of my own. And that kind of segued me into getting my PC in January of 2018. So about a year later, after playing around with streaming for a little bit. And that's what kind of convinced me to go full steam ahead and take content creation a little more seriously, especially in 2019 when I left the military. I was able to transition from one full-time job and make streaming my full-time job around 2019, 2020. However, 2020, COVID hit. It took about 2 years off of Twitch, 2 years off the internet in general. I got another job, and I kind of found myself back on Twitch around 2022. Started dabbling in full-time, as well as still having a part-time job at that time. And that's kind of what led me to today. I am now a little more consistent with my streaming, on top of still maintaining a household. I have a family. I have a daughter, 2 dogs, 2 tortoises, and a partner who I love so much. He does support the streaming journey too. That's very important. And yeah, we've just kind of we're kind of in a place right now too, where we're kind of, we're about to move out of Arizona. Where we're moving is kind of up in the air. However, it kind of does bring a lot more realities of like streaming, your schedule, your consistency, and where the money's kind of gonna flow upon that transition too. So I'm definitely excited to be able to talk about that and harp on that a little more, especially given my experiences of kind of being full-time, half-time, part-time, you know, all over the place. But I definitely would love to share that information with those who are here to learn.
Amazing. Yeah. And so for everybody who's in the chat, this is like, we'll be chatting, yes, but this is also a place for you to ask questions. If you have questions specifically, please put them in the chat. I am going to be doing my best to have this conversation, but also be, you know, keeping an eye out on your questions as well. So please do feel free to drop your questions into the chat. And the first question that came to mind for me, so my background also was, I've been streaming for something like 14 years. I have been doing content creation in some form forever. And so I have seen, the industry go up, down, left, right, sideways, every which way that you could imagine. And that jump to going from sort of like a hobby streamer to a full-time streamer, what was your transition like to go from sort of like, oh, I'm doing something, this is kind of fun, but I don't know where it's going, to like, oh, okay, I'm going to really make an effort to make this my income? Like, what was that like decision process like for you?
So it took a long time. So again, I started around like seriously taking it full time around late 2018, 2019. And upon my transition of getting out of the military in mid 2019. So kind of upon that small time frame, I was working in the military full time, active duty, but I was about to transition to, I did my time in service, no reserve, nothing. So it's just me and whatever income I decide to make at that time, which I was just dabbling in streaming. I didn't take it as seriously at first because it was just a hobby for me. But then upon realizing that I was transitioning out of my main career, I kind of took the thought process and I was like, all right, do I really want to dive head on into taking this full time, or do I still want to make it a hobby and find a job on the side as well? Because that was very much an option too. But given the money that I had saved, and just kind of doing some forward thinking for the next couple of months/year, I did give myself about that year to be like, you know what, let's do this full time. I have the funds to support myself. If anything goes wrong, that is very important, is making sure that you have a backup plan. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and just kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of those things that like I understand where people aspirationally start with streaming, and the sort of, I don't know how to put it other than like misrepresentation, I think, unintentional misrepresentation of like streaming life, and I think that there's a lot of people who have an aspiration to go full-time as a content creator, to go full-time as a streamer, but don't have necessarily that wherewithal of like, oh, okay, I am actually taking a fairly massive financial gamble on myself right now, and I need to have a plan in place in order to make sure that I am not, that I can make a concerted effort towards this thing, right? Did you also find like, so for me, when I made the move to going full time, I was also like sort of career transition period. The pandemic definitely helped like move things in a direction of like, oh, okay, well, everything's shutting down, and I like my old, like the job that I had is like kind of going away. Like now is a time for me to like, let's try it, let's try it and see what happens. And so like, yeah, you mentioned like the sort of leaving the military is like a natural transition point for you. Like, so before you like reach that point of transition, leaving the military, like how much planning did you put into like, okay, I want to make sure that I have at least this much saved up. I want to make sure that I have this much budgeted for expenses. I want to make sure that I have this much budgeted. Like, what was like, how much planning went into that? Or was it just kind of like, oh, I actually have a decent amount saved up because military?
Okay, so I got out May 2019. I believe I didn't start really thinking about it until that January. So 5 months prior, I was like, it kind of like sparked in my head because what was it, 2019? So it was about a year or two after I got my PC, and I'm like, I already started making an investment going from console to PC. So in my head, I'm like, what's kind of stopping me from making the next step into investing in myself and maybe taking content creation full time? And I think it took about a month or two to seriously go back and forth with myself. Is this something that I want to do? Is this something that I'm going to enjoy? Is this something that I feel like I can do long term? Do I have a brand? Do I have content that people want to subscribe and, actually want to watch? It was a lot of back and forth for me, but I think it took about a good month or two until I decided, you know what? I have these funds. I'm set up. I have a home, X, Y, and Z. Things just seem to line up for me. So I was like, let's give this a try and see how it goes.
That's awesome. Cool. So as somebody who, I have ADHD like crazy. So, hey, perfect. So here's a great question then. When you made that switch, how did you deal with the workload change? Like mentally, what did you have to do to because, when all of a sudden, your ability to pay your bills, all of a sudden when your ability to feed your family, to keep a roof over your head, all of these things are now dependent upon your content.
Mm-hmm.
There's taking content creation seriously, and then there's taking content creation seriously. And I think that until people make that jump to oh, I need to keep my electricity on with my content in order to be able to continue making content, did you have a mentality switch, and what was that like for you?
See, the thing is that I didn't. And I wish I did. Now, here's what I learned after the fact a few years later is at the time, I wish someone would have told me, you are now your own boss from here on out. Your content creation is dependent on the discipline and the leadership that you instill in yourself, on what you believe in yourself, what you put out. There's no one there telling you wake up at 8 a.m., post something at 9 a.m., be on stream by 12 p.m., stream for 6 hours, run this many ads. And, no one's really telling you that. You have to kind of start being your own boss, make yourself a schedule. And what's the word for it? As scary, I guess, as it is, as intimidating as it is for yourself to now start being your own boss, that's very much what is needed for yourself, is your own self-discipline. And for me at the time, I wish I'd realized that, oh, now's not the time to sit back, relax too much, because now you're working for you. No one's giving you a paycheck every 2 weeks or month or however much you get paid. No one is giving you a set amount. It's all you.
Yeah.
All you.
Yeah. And that ranges from, I think scary is the right word, honestly, because I think that ranges from difficult to terrifying. As somebody who struggles with, executive dysfunction and trying to figure out okay, we can't, I know you love TikTok, but you got to get out of bed and film something. Let's go. Yeah. You can't just lay here in bed. You have to be doing something right now. That is a really, really difficult, that's a really difficult proposition and a really scary proposition of and not only that, I think that it also comes with a lot of fear, and a lot of, anxiety as well. I think that there's streamers in general who want growth and who desire, a level of popularity, fame, pick your word here, who concern themselves with their analytics, are, people who suffer from a degree of that anxiety, right? There's that idea of your concurrent viewership fluctuates, and every single time you have one that's up here, you're yeah, and then every single time you have one that's down here, you're But then
the highs are high and the lows are low.
Exactly. But then on top of that, when you tie your literal livelihood to it, you take that anxiety and you multiply it 100-fold. And as somebody with a family to support and a partner and kids and pets, it just mounts and mounts and mounts and mounts and mounts. And it goes higher and higher and higher and higher. And, I think you had said that you went full time for a little bit, kind of got out of it and was like, okay, let's go back to work. Like, let's figure out a stable financial situation, and now are like moving back towards full time. What was like
Real
talk?
life happens.
Yeah, please talk through your experience about that, because I'm wondering if you and I had a similar experience.
So after I left the military, I went full time 2019, a part of 2020. After that, though, I want to say with the pandemic, it was very much staying indoors the whole time. For me, my daughter was with her dad in another state during the pandemic. So it was literally me at home, just streaming all the time. I didn't have literally any human interaction in that time for maybe, I want to say 6 months. Like, it was starting to deteriorate my mental in a way that I didn't even see until I started really doing VOD reviews on myself. Like, wow, why was I angry there? Or what was I feeling in that moment? Is something wrong? Like, I started like feeling like I needed to reassess myself. And at the end of 2020, I ended up getting a job at Amazon, at a warehouse. It required me to be out of the home. It required me to do physical activity. It required me to interact with other humans. Even with the COVID restrictions and whatnot, I still was like, you know what? I know that being online frequently, chronically, the way that I was not doing well for my mental. As much as I wanted to be like, I want to grind, I want to, keep creating content, grow my brand, but nothing was growing if my mental wasn't where it was. So I definitely needed to step back in that regard. So between December 2020 and December 2021, I took a clean break off social media, off Twitch, off everything, and kind of built myself back up again.
Yeah, no, and I think that introspectiveness, like that like paying attention to your own mental health, paying attention to your own just where you are, is super important to like making this sustainable, right? Because I think it's easy, especially when you get into that mindset of like, not everybody can be that like, turbo rise and grind set like type of person. Like, sometimes you got to take a break, and sometimes but it's also really, really tough to tell yourself it is okay for me to take a break when every minute that you're not working on streaming is a minute that you're losing money.
Yeah.
And that's really, really tough. And
it's mental warfare right there.
It really is. And this happens. That's the thing also, is that this happens to creators of all sizes. Like, there are creators out there who have, and this is, maybe this is like industry secrets, but like, there are creators out there who have orgs, agencies, people who take care of a lot of the monetary workload for them. And that's a super important thing to understand, is that your favorite creators that are out there who are regularly getting ad spots and doing ad reads on all of their YouTube videos and all of that stuff, they have people who work for them, who are helping them identify opportunities, identify sponsorships, cold emailing brands saying, hey, we'd love to work with you. Can we talk about a sponsorship package, stuff like that. For the vast majority of streamers, and I mean like 99.7% of streamers, you only have yourself. And so, we talk a lot on here about how, oh, sure, you're a writer, creative director, producer, all of those things. You are also marketing, advertising, business development, and sales. And yeah, like, it's really, really difficult to work that into your streaming livelihood when you didn't have to rely on that before. When you didn't have to go out and say like, oh, I'm going to negotiate a brand deal to make sure that I can pay for my groceries.
Right. And that I also want to harp on that too, is the fact that I don't believe, or not that I don't believe. I think a lot of uncertainty when it comes to like full-time streaming as well is being able to have the voice to advocate for yourself, to be able to you open to do those cold emails and be like, hey, I want to work with you. This is what I bring to the table. I myself for a while found a struggle in that too. And mind you, I was a recruiter for the Marine Corps. They taught me Fortune 500 secrets on how to do marketing and whatnot. And I still feel like I myself had like issues just putting my foot in the door, you know what I mean? So I could only imagine the average person who didn't have training like that, who's just like, just a brand new kid who's like, let me try this out. It is very much an intimidating factor to be able to speak on yourself, like to be able to be your best advocate.
Yeah. Great question from the chat right here. Thayer the Third, at what point can a streamer contact people for sponsorships? Anna, if you want to take the first crack at this one.
I can't say you can't do it from the jump, because I know a lot of brands at some point they'll look at your like what you've done for yourself, and at this point I feel like you have to have a resume, and not a resume in which you think that it's like on paper, this is where I've worked previously. What I mean by a resume is it's good to be like, I upload clips of what I stream daily on all my socials. Here's all my socials. My socials are all maintained. This is the followage. This is what I'm doing to advocate for myself, advertise myself. Because if brands don't see that you're already working for yourself, they're not necessarily going to really want to touch base with you and be like, well, what can you do for us if you're not doing this for you?
Yeah. No, and I mean, I think I agree with that a ton. Like, I think that there's this idea of brands will never work with me unless I have achieved X number, whatever that number is that you are telling yourself, like, oh, brands won't take me seriously until I'm an affiliate. Brands will not take me seriously until I'm a partner. Brands will not take me seriously until I have 1 million on TikTok and 100,000 on Twitch and I'm getting 2,000 CCV. Like, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Brands are much more willing to work with creators than most creators think. But to your point, there is also a right way and a wrong way to go about asking. And I run the social media for Streamlabs, so I see a lot. I see our DMs. I see everything that gets sent to all of our platforms DMs.
Hey, can I have money, please?
Yep. And that is the fundamentally wrong way to ask, is to DM the social profile and say, hey, I'm a content creator, give me money. I can guarantee you, nothing will get me to ignore a DM faster than there is zero thought put into it. You have no materials. You are expecting, the other person to dig into all of your social media profile themselves to determine whether or not this is something that's worth pursuing. And I cannot stress how important it is because you're right, this is a job application, right? This is a job application of a sort. Like, you would not rock up to, your interview, your first in-person interview at a job, like in an office, in, gym shorts and like a spaghetti stained t-shirt and say, give me money.
I mean, you could try. No, you're right. You're 100% right. You could try, but I'm pretty sure we will all generally know what the answer is going to be, right? But brands will 100% pay attention if you show up and say, hey, this is an opportunity for both of us to work together. This is something I've thought it out. This is how, your products work with what I want to do. Here's my media kit. Have a media kit, have a portfolio. Here's an example of my content. Here's what I want to do for you. Here's what I'm asking in return. This is how this benefits both of us. Are you open to a conversation? And you will be shocked at how much that little bit of effort helps you stand out above everybody who just DMs at Streamlabs, pay me money. Like, seriously, like, if you need to take that aspect of it seriously. Like, you need to take
the time to show yourself as a professional and show, hey, this is what I can do for you. This is what you can do for me. And ask. Just ask. Like, the worst thing that they can say is, hey, sorry, doesn't sound like a good fit, but let's continue to talk later. That's it. Like, that's the worst thing that can happen. And, as long as you are not out there, I don't know, being horrible in the DMs, like, you're generally going to be like, sorry, like, not right now, but let's talk later. And it's all right. So, yeah, to answer your question is, you never know. Like, just do that little bit of work to put your best foot forward and ask, and you'll be surprised at what can happen, honestly.
And it kind of caveats on top of, again, taking yourself seriously. It's kind of like how you said, if you show up in that spaghetti stained shirt and gym shorts, like, that is the brand that you are presenting to that person. And kind of like dressing yourself that way too is kind of showing them, like, I don't take myself seriously. Let's just see how this goes, So they're not going to really take you seriously.
Yeah.
But
what if it's to be a chef in a gym? I mean, dress for the job you want, I guess. Go ahead.
I was going to say something else too on top of that. I forgot though.
That's all good.
If I remember, yeah.
Yeah, but no, like, if you show up in earnest and you show up in good faith and you show that you've, like, clearly thought out, hey, this is how this will work. Hey, this is, how these pieces fit together. This is explicitly what I'm asking for. This is how I will promote it. That can get you like in the door. Like, seriously, you can accomplish a ton.
And that's, I remembered too what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Is on that resume aspect too, like putting in the work for yourself as well. Like, even if you're posting a clip a day, just one clip a day, even if it gets like 10 views, at least you have a resume on your socials, on your profile saying, this is the work that I'm putting out for me, for myself. And that'll make you look more presentable, more confident in yourself. Like, hey, I don't have the numbers right now, but I know that I have the drop. That's what it'll show to whoever you're trying to, I guess, do a brand deal with, is, hey, I have the drive, I have the time, I have the dedication. It shows a lot if you're already doing the work yourself.
Yeah. And like, there is something to be said also about, once you get tapped to, say, make that first piece of content for a brand, if you are communicative and you answer your emails and you are, like, in regular communication with the person that you're working with, and they don't have to, like, chase you around for, like, hey, did you film that video yet? Do you have a script for us to look at yet? Like, what's going on? Like, if you show that you are taking it seriously and you are working with them and you are, like, able to, like, be collaborative and not have to be, like, chased down and, like, checked in on all the time, that can take that and extend it so much further. Like, seriously, a lot of people think you have to have X number, you have to have X number. You can do a ton at all levels of your content creation journey. Like, seriously, you can. So yeah. And it is on, let's talk about the flip side of it real quick, which is, once you do achieve a certain amount of following, once you do achieve a certain amount of popularity, influence, fame, whatever, you will get a bunch of emails in your business email. Oh, that's the other thing. Make your business email easy to find.
Yeah.
God, like, every influencer manager that I know is like, I cannot stand it when I have to dig through, like, 9 links to get to your business email. Make your business email easy to find, because businesses, once you get a little bit of a following, will start emailing you with opportunities. But not all of them are worthwhile opportunities. And Sana, tell me, have you had that experience of, like, oh, what the heck is this? Like,
Yes, I have. Actually, as of late, it's been TikTok. These creator funds, we'll send you this product if you can do a 5-minute post on it or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, like, so I want to attribute that to the fact that I myself do have my business email on all of my about me's everywhere. My about me profiles across all my socials pretty much are kind of the same, but I always make sure to put my like email address on there, business email, for that specific reason, because you never know who or when or what is trying to like reach out to you. But it is also important to identify the kinds of offers that are sent to you as well. There's a lot of keywords that I can't think of right now, but I know like there are people who are like, hey, I notice you have no graphics. I'm a graphic artist. If you
Oh,
want
God.
to work with me, reach out. And it's just like their name and sent by Apple iPhone or something. Like you can just, there are like indicative things in these kinds of emails where you can be like, oh, there's no logo. It's at WXR7G at something.com. You know what I mean? There's a lot of scammers out there in which you have to kind of like filter through for that specific reason. Because as much as you're trying to build a brand, there's also people out there, even if you don't have a brand yet or it's not as big, someone's always trying to, I guess, trying to grab that from you or trying to like make money off of you too. So be very aware in those promotions. Like what I like to do is whenever somebody reaches out for me for some sort of like partnership or brand promotion or whatnot, I Google their not just their name, but also the brand that they're representing. Influencers who have maybe done any sort of reviews on their content, any reviews on their websites. They might be a little hard to find sometimes, but it's definitely worth it, and to do your due diligence on who it is that you're going to be working for. Because the last thing you want to do as well is represent a brand that you don't agree with their views, or you don't like their product, or you just have like there's no synergy between both brands. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, for sure.
So.
And I think that it is easy to get yourself into a position of, you know what, I'm in a place right now where I just need a paycheck and I'll just do a video for whoever, and I'll just, what product do you want me to talk about? Okay, great. Like a pocket blender. Cool. This has nothing to do with my content. The weirdest email that I ever got in my business email was for a brand that wanted me to promote like their line of iced out like Cuban chains and like iced out watches. And to your point, like if you've been doing this for a little bit, you start to develop a sense of smell. Even immediately from like that subject line where you're like, I don't know about this one, fam. And like
you got to read it a few times,
and you got to read it, because there will be giveaways where they will be like, oh, we loved your content. It always starts with, dear so-and-so, we loved your content. We think that your content would be perfect to promote this product. And you have to ask yourself like, okay, well, hold on. Like, is this actually something that works with my content? Is this something that I feel comfortable promoting? Is this something that or is this just going to be completely out of left field and people are going to be like, why the hell are you talking about, your iced out chain? Like, that's not who you are as a human being. We've never heard you talk about this in our lives. And that, I think that goes to illustrate, right? That goes to illustrate the importance and the power of more insular communities, like more close-knit communities when it comes to brands. I think that, and somebody made a joke earlier about Raid Shadow Legends. Like, we've all seen the ad read. We all know exactly how it goes. We all skip ahead in the YouTube video. We know what that looks like. We know what that sounds like, right? And it's easy as an audience to just kind of roll your eyes, skip through it, and dismiss that ad read entirely, right?
Mhm.
But, and this goes back to that question of like, at what point should I be, asking, like, approaching brands to work with? The joke that I make all the time is that when I bought the Logitech G Pro X Super Light mouse, I bought it for myself. I was not sponsored. I was not paid to like read an ad for them. I just told people, holy crap, this mouse is so light. Like, oh my God, it's ridiculous. And like 3 people went and bought it. And I, at that point, did not have like 1,000 CCV. I did not have hundreds of people watching me. What I had were a bunch of friends who trusted my opinion and trusted my word and listened to the words that I had to say. And so you do need to ask yourself when you're looking at these emails coming in, like, okay, is this something that I really want in my content? Is this something that I care about? Is this something that I want to promote? Or, is this something that might honestly hurt my reputation with my community? Because this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to talk about, right? Is balancing your ability to feed yourself and your reputation as a sellout, right?
Yeah.
Because we're getting into it now. Like, this is one of those topics that is so difficult to balance as a creator. Like, how do you balance literally being able to pay your bills versus being perceived as selling out? Like, have you had to struggle with that at all?
No, not in that regard, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess I'm very stubborn in the fact that I just will not do anything that is against my nature, my brand, or me.
Mm-hmm.
I find it very hard to lie. So
Yeah.
I can't just sit there and be like, yeah, buy this drink. This is the best drink ever, even though I don't like it. Like, it's against my morals, I guess. And it just makes it easier because if you're trying to promote something that you just wholeheartedly do not like have your heart and mind set out to, it will affect you in the long term. Whether you feel like it does or not, I feel like putting that energy into something you don't really believe in and taking that away from yourself and what you could be doing to improve yourself definitely will take like a negative impact.
Yeah. And I think that there's very much like this, I don't know how to describe it other than like an indie artist vibe to like streaming.
Yeah.
Where it's like everybody loves like the underdog story. Everybody loves like the indie artist that's like, just trying to get their music heard. Like, we all know the trope, right? But then the second it's like, oh, I finally signed to a label. I finally signed my first brand deal. Like, I finally have some money coming in. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, like, you sold out. You're not the person that I thought you were, and it's this idea of like, we want you to succeed, but not that way.
Right.
And that's a really, really tough thing. I think for a lot of people to figure out, like, how do I do this? But, and then again, funny you should mention, like the common ad read that we always hear, if you like, and I think people generally know the size of those deals, especially when you're talking about like top name creators. Like, that is a huge deal.
Oh yeah.
And at some point, it weirdly goes back to being like, oh, okay, well, of course they're gonna do the ad read for whatever, that, think of how much they're getting paid. Like, obviously they're gonna do the ad read. So yeah, it's such a touchy subject. I found, like, money in general. It's such a really touchy subject that people don't like talking about.
And I think what also comes with that too is the fact that the viewer then kind of expects that. So when a big creator like that is just, doing their thing and they're on the up and up and they're getting these sponsored deals and whatnot, and they're still genuinely staying true to themselves, there's still going to be those individuals that be like, oh, well, you sold out. You're sponsored person, you're doing this brand deal. Well, at the same time, what viewers slash like upcoming streamers don't realize as well is that you're not doing this just for this to be a hobby, just for you to be a content creator, and then you just plateau. That is
Mm-hmm.
not the intent of the person who is doing the content creation and streaming. The intent is to keep building yourself up, build a brand, keep growing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And while the viewer can sometimes see that as selling out, in a way it's also kind of just how do you call it? Like fortifying that brand. Like
Mm-hmm.
this person is genuine. We believe in this person. We like what they're doing. But also with those ad reads too, you got to understand these people are being paid. So it then becomes a job as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the hard transition of seeing your favorite streamer just being there as a friend, doing this for fun, while they're now getting paid a little bit more to make this a main job too. So it's kind of like a give and take between both the viewer and the content creator as well, to understand those unspoken lines of this
Mm-hmm.
is how it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about setting yourself up for success. I think we kind of got into that a little bit, but what as let's talk to the hypothetical proverbial streamer who has never streamed before but somehow has found their way here to talk to absorb knowledge. What can a creator starting out brand new, ground zero, has no audience, no following right now? How can they set themselves up for success before that first stream even happens?
Realize that you are your own boss. Realize that you have to put in those hours. Realize that you have to set yourself a schedule, consistency, like uploading and whatnot, your clips for the day. Because long term, that does create more revenue for you as well, in terms of posting your content from one platform and putting it amongst other platforms as well. While it's not going to be a huge payout to begin with, maybe even no payout to begin with, it gets your ball rolling in the right direction to where your socials can start being monetized, because you do need to reach a certain threshold for your channels to start being monetized. Like you have to be affiliate on Twitch. You have to have X amount of followers on another social media platform and stuff like that. So that's how you slowly start working towards that. That's why you see your favorite content creators doing similarly the same thing, 2-3 uploads sometimes a day, depending on like who's helping them do that stuff. But it is you doing all of it in the beginning and kind of setting that precedence and that baseline for yourself of how it is that you want to present content and how it's going to be put out to the world.
Yeah. I'll add to that, figure out your brand. I think that yes, a brand can change. Yes, a brand can evolve. Yes, the brand that you start with might not be the brand that carries you through, all phases of content creation, but at least put a little bit of thought into it. At least put a little bit of thought into what's my username? Secure those social media profiles. Set up that link space, link in bio account. Do all of those things. Like, figure out your brand early on and do everything that you can to make sure that you have that brand consistency everywhere. Like, that is so important, because it is so difficult to say, oh, well, this is my name on this profile, but this is my name on this other profile, and this is my name on this third profile, and so you're just going to have to remember that. Good luck. No. People are immediately going to be like, okay, whatever. Like, imagine if it was called Starbucks in the Pacific Northwest, but is called Seattle Coffee down in Texas, but is called, I don't know, whatever. Like, pick a different name. Like, you're not going to understand that it's all one consistent product, right? So securing that brand and thinking through what that brand looks like, sounds like, feels like, figure all of that out before you even get started with content creation. Just sit down and jot down a few notes of this is what I want to play. This is my upload schedule. This is what I can do realistically, given all of the other things that I have going on in my life. this is how much work I can put into it, and then you'll be better, set up for when everything gets rolling. And that way, once you get started streaming, once you get started with content creation, then you have all of that already. Like you're not just sort of figuring stuff out as you go. Like, oh, what do you mean I need Discord? Oh, what do you mean I need a banner? Oh, what do you mean I need a Twitter account? Like, oh, what am I supposed to? Oh, okay, I guess I'll go do that right now. Hold on. Do that all immediately. Do that all ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So then from there, let's say you reach affiliate. Great job. Affiliate on Twitch is where you can start making money for the very, very first time on Twitch. How? Like, what advice do you have for, like, monetizing? Let's start with Twitch specifically. Like, what is your advice for monetizing Twitch? Because I think that's because it's the most, like, direct, interactive, live form of monetization. It's a little bit. It takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more nuance than, like, put out good content on TikTok, put out good content on YouTube. Great. Like, that's really all it comes down to. But, like, with Twitch, it's very, like, in your face. It's very right now, right here. So, like, how do you go about monetizing your Twitch content?
A lot of my monetization on my Twitch channel currently, which I'm streaming part-time at the moment, is ad revenue. I don't believe a lot of people really know, I guess, the importance or how important ad revenue can actually be once you are able to run ads on your channel, and how to effectively have them run on your channel. And I have, like, a year's worth of, like, hey, it works data to prove this too, is the fact that so I play a lot of Overwatch, and I also play a lot of Fortnite. In between, when I'm waiting in queues or lobbies, when I use the restroom, I'm always running an ad. But if there's anything that I found that is super transparent and that the viewer likes, is the fact that you tell them, hey, I'm gonna use the restroom, I'm gonna run y'all an ad real quick, so y'all can do what you guys gotta do too. We're waiting for a game, and then when we come back, we should all be here. I can't tell you how effective it is for you to be clear and have that communication with your chat, and for them to know what's going on as well. Because it's no secret that ads are all over Twitch. We know this. But one way you can not only just monetize your stream, but also create that connection with your channel too, is to have that transparency. Like, hey, I gotta run an ad, so I'm gonna run it now for your convenience so you don't miss the game. You know what I mean? And it works so effectively too, because in between every queue, you end up running, and I feel like I end up running in more ads than, like, how the ad manager has it set up for me, but it's always at a convenient time. And that's how you can exercise monetizing your stream once you hit that affiliate.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, like, that idea of, like, taking advantage of, like, natural breaks during your content to be like, all right, well, I'm gonna get up and stretch my legs, like, I'll be back. And it like, it like,
health too.
Yeah, and it, like, forces you to, like, get up for, like, 30 seconds to a minute to be like, okay, I literally have to go and, like, stretch my legs out because I've been sitting here for 2 hours now. And that helps out a ton, like, taking advantage of those natural breaks in the content. And also, I think also not punishing your viewers or feeling like you're punishing your viewers for continuing to be there, right?
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the idea of Twitch is going to run ads anyway, right? Twitch is going to run ads anyway. YouTube is going to run ads anyway. You may as well have a little bit of control over when that happens and how that interacts with your content, as opposed to leaving it up to YouTube, leaving it up to Twitch to decide, oh, okay, this is like a whatever. So from the YouTube perspective, you're making like a 30-minute long YouTube video, maybe it's not a bad idea to work in like a couple of breaks in the flow of your content and just say, okay, I'm just going to, like, this is a decent spot for a mid-roll. This is a decent spot for a mid-roll. And it feels natural. It feels like, oh, okay, I'm not getting cut off in the middle of a sentence. I'm not getting cut off mid-match. Like, you know, taking control of how those ads play out and where in your content they happen can go a long way to making them feel less punishing, I think. And then there's also the matter of, you know, things like cheers, things like subs. I think that making those things fun is so important. Making those things fun and engaging and interactive. Like, so I don't know if anybody here also watches GPTV. They're good friends of mine, good friends of, you know, all of us here. Like, they are so good at like having all of these crazy, you know, alert styles that have different interactions, and they all will interact with that alert in a certain way. It's very, very interactive. It is very engaging, and it makes people want to engage with it. The wrong way to do it is I've seen some people say, you know, and I think this is the wrongest way to go about it in my mind, is like, hey, if I don't make like $100 in tips in the first 20 minutes, I'm cutting the stream off.
Yeah.
Who wants to engage with that? Who's like excited about that?
That reminds me of you saying earlier, you don't want to start a brand deal like, hey, give me money. Because that kind of is what that sounds like. Like,
yeah.
Hey, stream, I'm only going to be here unless I profit off of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm out, you know?
And we've all seen like all of the clips. Anybody who's been in content creation for a little while, you know, we've all seen the clips of like almost like shaming your audience into like paying you. And like shaming people for like not being able to subscribe or not being able to, you know, participate in the hype train, whatever. Like, you know, that I think is like the wrongest way to go about it, because at the end of the day, like, and I think this is, I'm trying to see if this sort of starts to touch on the topic that you had brought to me, which is like, you are there to, you know, be entertaining, and not every single person in your audience has the means or ability to financially support you.
Mm-hmm.
They're here every single day, every single stream, because they like you and they like your content, but that doesn't mean that they can financially support you. Like, times are tough. Are tough. And like, yeah. And like, for some people, that $5 a month is like a make or break amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, it's really hard to like, to, you know, I think it can be hard from the creator's perspective sometimes to like, especially when you're facing down your own financial hardship, to not feel like, oh my God, like you need to be helping me out with this. But like, you have to remember that behind every single username is a person. There's a person back there with their own bills and their own families, their own expenses, their own medical payments, whatever. Like, they've got their own stuff going on. So like, you always want to approach, I think, like that sort of monetary engagement with like okay, I want this to be fun for us. I want this to create a moment. I want us I want you to feel like you got your money's worth, is really what it comes down to, right? Like, you know, oh, you can cheer 100 bits and then put like the entire like lorem ipsum, you know, copy pasta into the TTS, and I have to sit there and listen to like gibberish Latin for like a minute. Is that worth $1? Cool. Awesome. Like, you know, and that is, I feel like, super subjective for like each community. Each community is going to have different things that they care about, different things that they want, different things that they vibe with, and different things that they don't. And understanding your community and how they interact with your alerts and how they interact with like, you know, that sort of interactive monetization on your stream allows you to provide incentives that are like, okay, this is something that you can do. It's not something that you have to do. It is not something that you have to be like, my content is not reliant upon your financial contribution. It is a nice to have.
Yeah.
you know? So,
And I
mhm,
think that's why I find my ad manager and my ad revenue so important too,
mhm.
because it doesn't require anyone to spend any money on you. They
Yeah.
can just have your tab open, have your stream open, just listen. And them counting as a viewer and like carefully running the ads the way that I do has proven that people who don't have necessarily the monetization or the funds to really support you
Mhm.
financially, they'll be more than willing to support you for free by just watching, especially when you're being transparent to them. Like, hey, I know how the economy works. I
Mhm.
know $5 can be a lot.
Yeah.
You just got to be here and chill. That's it.
Yeah.
And, I let you guys know when the ads run. It's a comfy vibe. It all depends also on how it is that you want to run your channel too. But I do feel
Mhm.
like that transparency in the ad manager is the best way anybody can support your channel from the jump without really putting that first step towards putting any money towards you.
Yeah.
That could come later down in the road, maybe. If those one or two people are like, hey, I really have been liking your content and I just came upon some money. Let me finally subscribe, because those
Mhm.
people do remember. They do
Yeah.
remember the fact that you're providing them entertainment and content while understanding that they can't necessarily support you the way that they want to. Like,
Mhm.
it's very much a human aspect of streaming as well. And it's important to be transparent on that.
Yeah, to
At least
recognize
I
that.
feel like, yeah.
No, absolutely. No, I think that there I think that it is possible for streamers especially to get too bogged down with treating their viewers like a commodity and treating their viewers like statistics, right? That you see number, want number go up. Well, guess what? Every one of that number is a person. Every chat message that is getting sent is a person, and they have their own life and they have their own stuff going on. Like, and this is only slightly relevant, but it's a thing that I always love saying, which is, as a streamer, you have to remember that people have lives and people could be doing literally anything else right now. Like, in that moment when you are streaming and somebody is taking the time to talk with you in your chat and be engaged and be active in your chat and talking with you, they could be doing literally anything else. They could be playing games. They could be watching anime. They could be cooking a meal. They could be going for a walk. They could be going to the gym. They could be paying their bills. They could be doing literally anything else. And they are choosing to spend their time with you. They are choosing to sit down and actively engage with your content.
Mm-hmm.
And when you remind yourself of that and keep that perspective in your head, all of a sudden it is so much it like you understand, like, oh, yes, I have, X number of concurrent viewership, whatever, but like that doesn't mean that I'm owed that like income. I am not, I can't, like, I shouldn't approach this as like, oh, they're just here to feed me and fuel my bank account. Like, no, they're people.
Right.
They're human beings, and you
like
need
friends
to
coming over your home.
Yeah, like, you need to remember that, and you need to understand that, like, honestly, like, I think, and I do think that, like, being engaged in chat, being active in chat and keeping the conversation going and keeping the vibes up is so much more important than subscribing. Like,
Yeah.
Like, the people who are there all the time, the people who are your ride or die audience, like, those are the people who are going to be there when you change games. They're the people who will come back when you take a 6-month break. They're the people who, like, if you have to take a week off of stream for your mental health to, like, get through a depressive episode, they're the ones who are going to be like, hey, just hoping you're doing all right. Like, hope you're doing well. Like, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Remember to feed yourself and drink water. Like, these are the people who are there for you.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to turn around and kind of treat them like, oh, well, I mean, you've been watching for 3 years and you've never subscribed. What, is $5 too much? Like, come on. How quickly you will alienate your whole audience
Yeah.
having that attitude. Like,
Mhm.
and I say all of this knowing the anxiety that comes with monetizing yourself and commoditizing yourself as a product to be consumed and to be paid for, you know, as a product. Like, it's really, your mind is going to do backflips going through it.
A mental roller coaster.
Seriously, it is. So let's keep the timeline going here. So you've made affiliate, you've started to get popular on TikTok, you've started to see some emails roll in. Let's talk about diversifying. How do you go about diversifying income, and what are some things that are important to keep in mind for diversification? What does it even mean?
Diversifying your income.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what a lot of people would call it is the grind.
Mm-hmm.
The
Sure.
grind to get that income, however means you need. For me, my diversification of income comes between having several part-time jobs right now
Yep.
and also part-time streaming.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to understand is that my situation right now isn't going to work for everyone. My
Mm-hmm.
situation is for me personally at the moment, between about to move states, about to transition jobs, about to move homes. Like, that is indicative to my situation. So what you have to do is kind of evaluate what it is that you need for yourself to diversify your income. If you just need a $50, $100, just, you know, a week, a month, or whatever it is, something really small to like get you by for now, like just having streaming there and trying it out definitely could be something for you. But I would also implore you to at least get another like side gig, side job, or something, just so that you don't depend too much on content creation. Because the reality of it is that you could make like 100, 200, a couple hundred one month, and then you can make like $75 the next month. Like, that revenue is not promised. So unless you know you're making well above enough that you feel like you could sustain yourself, also literally don't quit your day job if you have.
Yeah. No. You're 100% right. I think that I've talked about, you know, in the past, and this, I love this topic, but I've talked about your good month. Every content creator who has reached, you know, a certain amount of like monetary success in content creation knows exactly what month that was. And in that month, you see that paycheck, you see that email that says, hey, your direct deposit has been processed or whatever, and you see the number that's there, and you have the moment of like, oh my god, if that keeps happening, I could be doing this, I could be making this amount, I could quit my job, I could get a new car, I could do this, I could do that. And then that's when the temptation of like, is this week the week that I like quit my job doing whatever and like dive into this? And that is such a common pitfall, right? Because yeah, exactly, it is not solid payroll. That number will go up, that number will go down, and you cannot judge your financial stability in content creation off of your best month. You have to judge it off of your worst.
Yeah.
Like, and that is such a common tripping point for a lot of people, where you start doing the mental math and the real math, honestly, and start doing the calculations and start dreaming. And I love that. I do genuinely love that, you know, like, try not to lose that. But also, don't let that cloud your judgment and cloud reality. Because all of a sudden, when the next month, that number that you saw is cut in half, and then the month after cut in half again, and then the month after cut in half again, and you're like, what? Whoa, wait, hold on. I thought we were like blue skies, sunshine, and rainbows. And now all of a sudden I'm considering, getting a sponsorship from an iced out watch company to be like, sure, at least I can pay for my electric bill or whatever. Like, and at that point, like, it's time to check yourself, and it's time to be like, whoa, okay, what happened? And diversification can go a long way into helping with that, right? Like, some of the most successful streamers that I know have several side gigs. They're full-time streamers. They have several side gigs. One of my good friends does emotes on the side, does emotes for commission, puts up emote packs on Etsy, I think is what she does. And that brings in a solid amount of money for her every single month. Brand deals are, again, another way to make money that isn't tied directly to your stream or tied directly to your TikTok. Like, yes, it is, you are posting on TikTok, but it is not like, it's not your content creation in a way. Like, it is, but it isn't. There's merch. There's, honestly, like, one way that I have found, ways to make money is literally consulting with, people who are like, I want to start streaming and I don't understand it because I am a 65-year-old man and I just want to be able to stream, this thing to these people. Here's $400. I'll pay you.
See, I didn't know that was a thing. I just learned something.
Yeah. And but it is that grind, right? It is that grind. Is you have to be going out there and making opportunity for yourself. It is going out there and meeting people. It is going out there and making connections. It is going out there, and if you have this idea that you can just sit at home on Helldivers all day and just money will start pouring out of your computer and into your lap, you've got a serious reality check coming your way.
Same thing with brand deals and stuff too. The
Yep.
emails aren't gonna always come to you.
Yeah, and sometimes the emails are not worthwhile. And and this is Lazy Puffer. This is how it feels like it works. And this is I'm sorry, I'm about to go off on a little bit of a tangent. This is how people think it works because this is the illusion of content creation that we get fed unintentionally, but algorithmically. Because if you look at the way that YouTube, TikTok promotes content to you, if you're watching like streaming or gaming, let's play content, more often than not, unless you are, going out of your way to seek out creators that are under like a certain sub count, more often than not, you're going to be shown content from major content orgs. You're going to be shown content from major esports orgs. You're going to be shown content from brands. You're going to be shown content from, all of these channels because they're the ones that keep views. You're going to see Mr. Beast stuff. You just are. And what's that?
Can't escape it.
You can't escape it. And you're going to, when this is all you see, right, is, this big name streamer just sits there and plays video games and then people pay him money. Cool. Oh, this big name streamer just sits there and plays video games and people pay him money. Cool. That's all I got to do is I just got to sit there and play video games and people will pay me money. Like, you're being shown like the top 0.001% of creators. And it is giving you an unrealistic expectation of what streaming is. Because again, like I said earlier in the show, they have teams, they have editors, they have people, they have videographers, they have people who help them produce that content. They have people who help them pay their bills. They have people who literally do their laundry for them. Like, and then all of a sudden when you're like, so-and-so doesn't have to do laundry. Like, why don't I have a personal assistant that does my, like, that's because they are like so the pinnacle of creators. They are the not even the top 1%. They are the top 0.01%.
Oh yeah.
But it's all that we see because it's what the algorithms push to us. So that's the importance of having conversations like this, of like, hey, guess what? Sure, congratulations, you secured your brand deal. You still got to do your laundry. Like, you still got to cook for yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's really, really difficult to I'm trying to figure out, like, it's really, really difficult to see those images all the time of like, this is what life should be like now that I have X number of people following me on TikTok. Why do I not have the Lambo? Why do I not have the mansion? Whatever. And I think that here's another. I'm interested for your take on this.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on people who get into content creation specifically chasing that life? Like, I want to be Ninja, I want to be XQC, I want to be Disguised Toast, I want to be Quarter Jade, I want to be Pokimane, I want to be Valkyrae. What do you say to somebody like that?
I don't want to discourage them,
Mm-hmm.
but I also want to keep it real with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that those are definitely individuals to kind of look into and see how the high of the high live on Twitch or any other platform that they're looking into specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And those are really great examples to look into. However, they are the 0.01 or 3% of content creation. So while watching them is like a good foundation basis and like a good idea of how content creation works, that's not how content creation works for everyone, because they're at such a level that they're the peak of what you want to be. You know what I mean? That's everyone's dream, right? But with a dream, you have to balance out the reality of how do you even start from ground zero,
Yeah.
So it really does it requires a deep dive into one's individual self-discipline, and your brand, what it is that you want to, I guess, put out into the world to see if this is something that you do want to do, because it does take a lot more physical, mental, emotional exercising than a lot of people do really consider to begin with.
Yeah. Let's, just because it happened, I think, 3 days ago, let's talk about the super, super fun topic of like taxes and expenses.
Woo!
Because if we're going to talk about, discipline and being your own boss and, staying grounded and in reality, hey, guess what? If you make in the US, I think it's over $600 streaming, you are going to get a sheet of paper from Amazon that says, hey, here's your, I think it's a 1099 MISC.
Yeah. This
is your income. Have fun with the IRS. and like, it's, you need to, once you start making money with streaming, especially the more income streams that you have, you need to pay attention to your finances. Because if you're used to your steady income, taking your taxes out of your paycheck every couple weeks and just having to be like, oh, how much money am I getting back? Guess what? That's not the case anymore. And anybody who has participated in the gig economy knows, like, you need to be tracking and saving and like putting taxes away to like make dang sure that once April 15th rolls around, you're not suddenly out, however many thousands of dollars to like, oh God, like I need to pay this, otherwise they're going to come after me. Like,
right.
And it's, you need to be ready for that. Like, and from your perspective right now, as somebody who is moving states, moving houses, What has the housing situation been like with several part-time jobs and streaming? Like, because I have heard some serious horror stories around housing.
Luckily we're kind of in a predicament where financially we can kind of make up for what we lack here and there, especially it helps that I have a partner who, helps me with that. But oh my goodness, just thinking back to when I was by myself, I didn't have my partner time when I was streaming in 2020, I was making the income on my own. I just remember there was some times where it's like, oh, the paycheck was great this month. Don't have to worry about a thing. Put some on the side or whatever. And then there were months where like, I didn't make enough. What do I do? Oh my God. You start scrambling left and right. And that's just a preparation. Preparation is what helps you with like, I guess, saving enough money to know that you have enough for like your bills, your home. And I think another thing that I was also struggling with when it comes to housing too is internet. Obviously, if you want to be a content creator, it's kind of like a small thing to really have to think about, but until you're actually in the process of moving and you're wondering like what is happening in regards to your content creation, it's surprising how many places don't have the internet to support a stream to this day. So if say you're moving to another state, somewhere you're unfamiliar with, and you're looking for a home and you're a full-time streamer and you're reliant on streaming, you need to look into your internet situation too. There's been so many times where we haven't. It's like, oh my God, we're only running off a coax cable. There's no fiber in this place. What are we gonna do? So having to consider your internet and your internet bill is another one too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it varies from like place to place to place too. Like I remember I, was living in an apartment on the other side of the city. I moved to a different city and I only had the one provider like that was in the area. And luckily at this point I was not financially, reliant upon streaming, but I was taking it seriously. I was, thinking about my branding and thinking about, like all of the aspects of community building and all of that stuff. Like I was taking it very seriously. And I move in, we're in a new space, super excited, get my desk set up exactly the way that I want it to. And then I go live and it drops. And I go live and it drops. And I go live and it drops. And I run a speed test and I'm getting like 0.3 megabits per second up. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Like I paid for this tier of internet service. And so you call them. Oh, we're super sorry. We'll send the tech out. They send the tech out. They're like, oh, it's this problem. Fix it. Doesn't fix it. They send another tech out. Like literally this was like a month-long process that I couldn't stream. Yeah, I literally could not stream. And I'm lucky that at that time, like I was, working full time. So this was an annoyance. This was a nuisance. But this was not like a literal threat to my livelihood. And yeah, doing that prep work, doing that, like ask if you're like out there, like touring like an apartment and being like, oh, this looks nice. I like this. This could be my office, whatever. Knock on neighbors' doors and be like, hey, what's the internet like? How's the internet service? Like, do you experience drops? Like who's your provider? Like how is it? How does it work? Ask those questions, because it is the last thing that you want to do is move into a space super excited, put the lights up, get the signs up, and then be like, oh, actually I can't stream until another ISP moves into this area in a year. So I guess see you never. Like that's awful. That is such an awful feeling.
It really is.
Yeah. And on top of that, like some places depending on where you'll move will, want like, oh, we want to see like what your income looks like. We want to see pay stubs. We want to see, what like, show us your last two pay stubs or whatever. And like as a streamer, that's an awkward conversation.
It really is.
That's a really awkward conversation because, you know, you don't have those. And you could be like, I could show you my like last month's Twitch payout, but like, there are, you know, rental agencies, rental companies who will not take that seriously. Mm-mm. And they'll be like, oh, that's what you're coming in with. That's not going to do it for us.
Yeah.
And like then you, please.
I was going to say, I've had plenty of experiences. I've moved around a lot where it's like, oh yeah, I'm a streamer. And their first look is like, what kind of streamer? And it's like,
video games.
I play video games.
Yep.
This is how it works. And they're like, okay, so who pays you, Amazon or Twitch? And it's like, well, Twitch is owned by Amazon.
Yes, yeah.
But, you know, and then you have to like try to explain it. And they're like, so you don't make a set amount of money a month? And it's like, yes, but no. And you know, it's a very like a lot of, it's nice when people do understand what you're talking about. For those who don't understand though, it makes it so much harder to get a home or an apartment or even like set up your services in that case too.
Yeah, because you know, they like these organizations do not want to have a concern about like, oh, is this person not going to be able to pay their rent while they're living here? Like, and so they can and sometimes will deny content creators because you don't have a consistent paycheck and you don't have a consistent amount of money coming in, and that's really dumb. Exactly, yeah. And so it's these are the complications that you can run into of like, oh, I didn't know, because I've had streamer friends of mine who are making good money. You know, they were making good money to the point that they were like, okay, I can buy a house. Like, let me go put a down payment on a house. And all of a sudden, the you know, the bank was just like, well, in order for us to approve this loan, we need to see your pay stubs. And they had to be like, well, I don't have pay stubs. I get paid monthly from content creation. And they're like, no, we need pay stubs. Like, we need to see. And so it's a complicated, it complicates everything. Health insurance, that's a great question. You know, luckily for me, when I was freelancing and doing content creation, you know, as a combination, that was my full-time job. And I'm lucky because I have state options. I had a state option that I could, you know, go to the state that I live in and be like, this is how much I'm making ish, you know, it's inconsistent, you know, what can I get for insurance? And I am like required by law to, you know, be provided insurance. Mm-hmm. That's not the case for everybody. And that's not the case for every state. And some people just don't have it. And all of a sudden you get hit with a medical bill. And in the US, that's not an insignificant chunk of change.
No.
And all of a sudden you're now reliant upon content creation to pay for that medical bill, and there's so many zeros on it.
Yeah. And I can't speak too much on that either, only because as a veteran, most of my health items are covered by the VA, so I'm good on that regard. But yeah, it's just like an ambulance ride alone is like 10K or something like that.
Now, I feel like we've been very cautionary about the realities of finances, about the realities of streaming. Let's talk a little bit about some of the upsides, right? Yeah. Which go back to your taxes. I think it is worth engaging with an actual tax professional, because this stuff gets really complicated. But your internet bill that you are reliant upon for streaming, potential tax write-off. Going to TwitchCon to conduct business, potential tax write-off. You know, buying a computer component for your streaming PC, potentially a tax write-off. So this is the room you stream in. Yes. And so like it is there are like benefits as well. And like do you have like a tax person? I think I just use some online service, but
So when I was in the military, TurboTax was always free for the military. It's
Mm.
easy. You upload your W-2 and whatnot. Once I left the military, I kept using TurboTax. But
Mm-hmm.
when it came to my first real year of no military, like to like, I guess help service my taxes or whatever. My first year of just strictly content creation, I went out and I spoke to a specialist at an H&R Block, recommended by another content creation friend who was making a decent amount at the time. But when it came to me actually going to this individual, at the end of the conversation, he pretty much was like, if you give this to me to file, you're going to have to pay this, pay that, and essentially you get nothing back. What I can do for you is tell you that your paper is all lined up and you go file it by yourself and you were never here. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of depends on like what kind of tax specialist you run into. But
Mm.
sometimes you'll get the individuals who will tell you like, hey, you made a decent amount, but not enough for me to like intricately go through your file and you can file this on your own and save some money.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of depends as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I've used TurboTax, like it does ask you a lot of questions and like, oh, for, you know, your streaming income, did you have a dedicated room? Did you buy equipment? Did you pay for internet service? And like TurboTax, like they have their problems, but like, you know, understanding like, oh, you know, this headset that I'm wearing is no longer, I'm buying it because I like it and it's a nice color and you know, it's no, like this is an expense for my stream. This like camera is an expense for my stream. This lens is an expense for my stream. And that means thinking about all of these purchases that you make as investments into your stream, right? They are investments into your business. They are investments into your ability to run this business, because that's what it is now. It's a business now, and you need to think of it as such. And save your receipts. Oh my God, save your receipts.
Yeah.
Like, and luckily, like, God, if you can get them like emailed to you, get them emailed to you. But like, save your receipts. These are business expenses now. Like, this is no longer like, oh, I'm just gonna buy a thing because I think it's cool. Nope. Like, track this. Pay attention to this. So let's talk a little bit about, I feel like there's this idea, right, of like, if I just work long enough at it, I will automatically start to make money. How do you go about, like, for one thing, let's address that head on. Like, time is money, right? Well,
right.
Is it? No. So like, let's address that head on first. Like, how do you, like, what is the mentality shift there?
Okay. This is something that I've actually played around with recently.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a fine line between streaming for 6 hours, putting out the best content you absolutely could, and then hopping off and, you know, dispersing your content for the day in that regard. Then
Oops, I hit the wrong button.
There was another side of that for me where I was like, you know what? Let me try streaming 12 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see where this goes for me. And what that experiment showed for me was, you can put in double the time. It doesn't mean it's not gonna equal double the money by any means. Oh,
I thought you just no. That was me trying to hit my. We just lost you on collab cam real quick.
There you go.
There you are. No, I happen to suffer from seasonal allergies, and they decided to kick off in full force today. So I have like a push to mute button, and it's right next to my swear bleep button. And so I hit the wrong one. My bad. You did not.
No worries.
Sana did not say anything that needed to be bleeped out. I was just trying to save you from a sneeze.
Yeah.
Anyways, wow, completely off the rails now. All right.
Wait, what was I saying?
You were talking. Oh God, you were talking about streaming for longer and how that does not directly translate into double the money.
Yes. So I did that experiment for myself because, 6-8 hours, I feel like is a really good like timetable, especially if you're taking your breaks as you're supposed to. But I was like, you know what? 12 hours, 6 days a week. Let's give this a try. I have the time. Let's see where it goes. What I ended up seeing were the following. One, 12 hours is a lot.
Yes.
Especially when your mind is constantly trying to entertain chat while you're playing whatever game that you're playing, trying to keep your calm in whatever game that you are playing, especially when it is ranked or whatever the case is. And just doing that consistently over and over, you're kind of taking away that time that you diligently look at your best moments of your content creation to upload to your social media. You're taking time away from your mental to actually relax and take in like what it is your chat's saying, what it is that's happening in the game, how it is that you're feeling. Are you taking your mental breaks? You start kind of neglecting yourself. And essentially once you neglect yourself, you essentially kind of like bleed that out into chat, where it's like you start neglecting your brand, your content, them in some cases, even if you don't mean to or you don't realize it. So time doesn't always equal money. Just because you're like, hey, I'm making really good money doing 4 hours, let me bump it up to 8, doesn't always mean it's going to translate.
Yep. Yeah. And that's even if we're just looking at like, obviously like ad rev, you know, if you are streaming for longer and you're running ads consistently, like, yes, that will add up. But if we're talking about things like all of the other monetization methods, live on Twitch, on YouTube, whatever, all of those other monetization methods are not going to be consistent throughout the next 8 hours of streaming. Like, you know, I don't know about you, but like, I'll go live, I'll have a handful of people hit their resubs right at the beginning. I'm like, hey, look, like, we're back for another month. Have all of those moments. It's really exciting. But guess what? All of those people that just resubbed, they can't resub again. Like, they cannot resub until next month. So, like, all of that monetization has now happened, like, right here at the beginning of the stream. And I can continue streaming for another 12 hours, what have you, but those individuals cannot resub. And so unless you are, like, getting consistent interaction with, like, bits and cheers and new subscribers and stuff like that, like, streaming for longer will always have a tailing off effect. Always. Because after a certain point, people who were super engaged with your content at the start of your stream are going to have other things to do after 4 hours of streaming. If they've been with you for 4 hours and actively engaging with you for 4 hours, that's a lot. Like, that's a long time to be actively engaging with a piece of entertainment. And, like, people will naturally start to just, like, drift off and, like, do other things. And so, and I think that there is, like, this idea, right, of, like, especially if you worked, like, wage jobs, you know, bagging groceries or you know, working retail or in a restaurant as you know, in high school or college or whatever, like, you know, if you're used to, like, oh, well, I can put in, you know, another 6 hours and make 6 hours worth more of my wage. Like, if you're coming into streaming with that mentality, like, that's not how that works. No. Like, everybody will get their hype in, everybody get their cheers in right at the beginning, and then it will tail off as you go longer. And so how then do you go about approaching how then do you go about approaching, like, efficiency when it comes to spending your time, right? Like, how do you go about, like, what is your process for, like, identifying, like, okay, I ran this experiment, clearly this didn't work out the way that I thought it would, you know, what's your, like, process for, like, assessing and then deciding, okay, well, if I'm going to reinvest those 4 hours of my not streaming, you know, where do you go? Like, what do you do with it?
So I guess the inner boss in me, it would tell myself, okay, where can you spend these other 4 hours at? Whether it's on another platform or doing something else for that matter. Like, for instance, what I recently started doing is I finally opened up a SoundCloud account. And I've been actually putting more time in now as another side hustle, producing tracks and uploading them onto SoundCloud. And that has actually been something that I've been doing now on stream too, is taking that time that would have been spent just continuing gaming or making my stream run longer. But instead of taking those 4 hours and playing the same game, doing the same thing that I'm doing, maybe present something else. Which I like to do is I like to play music. I like to write music. So I do something musically oriented. So that's kind of me telling you that you don't have to keep one thing or one continuous thing on your stream all the time. If gaming has been working for you for a long time, and then all of a sudden you reach a plateau, like your viewership's not really going up, but it's not going down either. Same thing with your subs and your followers and whatnot. Maybe that's your time to explore different avenues of what you can do on your stream too, aside from just gaming. Maybe bringing a hobby to introduce to your community so that you can connect better with them and be like, hey, this is what I like to do on my off time. Do you guys like to do the same thing? And kind of engage in that manner as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that there's this idea of always bringing new ideas to your stream, always bringing new interesting things for your stream to like keep things novel, right? Because it's easy to get into that idea of like, oh, okay, I figured out my formula, now it's time to rinse and repeat this until it doesn't work anymore. But you also have to recognize when it's not working anymore, and then be willing to face that yourself and say, okay, I need to make a change. Flip side of this conversation, though, is that there's plenty of people who are very averse to change. There are viewers who are very averse to change who come back and again because, oh, I know that I can always show up here to watch Sana playing Overwatch ranked. And then all of a sudden you come in and you're like, okay, hey, I thought I'd introduce you to my hobby of whatever, making music, like doing music production live. How do you mentally prepare for that feeling of risk, right? Of like, I am risking my viewership and therefore my income by potentially introducing this new thing that people may or may not vibe with. Like, that's scary. How do you deal with that?
That is something I actively deal with to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Considering the fact that I know that my continuity with my stream is Overwatch ranked and crazy clips here and there. Like, I know that's what people tune in for. That is when my viewership is the most high. I know my analytics, and I know whenever I am streaming Overwatch and there's drops enabled, like that is when my viewership is at a high. So I guess I need to assess with myself, and some days I'm like, okay, ranked isn't going well for Overwatch. Let's take a 10-minute break. Let me open up my Ableton program. Let me work on some music while we're still kind of like hanging around the Overwatch category. And that's kind of how I like break in something new. It's like, well, let's take a quick 5 or a quick 10. Let's not keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's driving us insane. Don't
Overwatch ranked.
Yes. So like I'll like maneuver my camera around and I'll just play the piano for a few minutes. And then it's like, okay, we've chilled out a bit. Let's go back and let's queue in again. Or I'll play while we're in queue, because sometimes the queues can run up to like 5-10 minutes. So that's kind of my segue into introducing my audience to something new. It's definitely kind of do something that you're already doing, but then like slowly bring in what you want to do in the process as well. So that you're not all, because I know some viewers are like, oh, you're doing something new, I'm out, you know? Some people don't like the instant shock of change.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a good way to like segue into it.
Yeah, no, I that makes sense. It's like acclimating to like a pool or something like that. Like you gotta like get your feet in first and then like slowly work your way like into it. And yeah, that makes sense, instead of like, making that immediate flip of like, oh, okay, I gotta change things up right now and like, flip that switch. But I also think that there is also that instinct, that like anxious instinct of like, oh God, we're stagnating. I need to change it up now. And I need to make a change drastically, and I need to make a change, fast, and I need to figure this out right now. And I think that it's very easy to lose an audience that way. If you are, because this is something that I was dealing with, of like, I was doing pretty well with streaming. I was making pretty good money streaming, but the game that I was playing was not fun for me anymore. And they added some stuff to the game that I was like, I don't like that. And I knew I needed a change. And I was the one who I was like, okay, well, since my livelihood is on the line here, we're going to make a change. This is how we're going to relate. We're going to go play a completely different game, but it's still cross-play. It's still free to play. So like maybe it'll be kind of a similar vibe. Nope. Like a bunch of people that just watched me for the game that I was playing before were like, oh, you're playing this other thing now? We're out of here. And I don't know. Like, I think I'm like drawing a parallel of like, it's like trying to approach like a really nervous cat. Like you have to like speak calmly and don't be like too okay. It's gonna be all right. But I do think that like that gradual introduction of like new elements and that gradual introduction of diversity into your stream is like the best way forward, so that it's not this jarring transition. But that also means, potentially sticking with that thing that is not bringing you joy or is not, doing it for you for whatever reason anymore longer than you'd like. And, I think this comes back to, again, that idea of always setting aside time to go through things. Like set aside like every week, every other week, like set aside a time to check in on yourself, on your analytics. Like,
yeah.
And this is a huge important thing. If you are looking to monetize your content, if you are looking to really even turn streaming into like a side gig that you can make meaningful money off of, even if it's just covering your internet bills, like if you are reaching that point of content creation that I want to take monetization this seriously, you're going to have to get rid of that advice of don't look at your analytics.
Yeah.
You have to.
Your analytics say so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people really look at their analytics tab on Twitch, if I'm being honest. At least some of the friends that I've spoken to. Mm-hmm. And I say this because I look at my 30-day like analytics. I look at my day-to-day, week-to-week analytics. I look at my analytics of what game that I play. I even look at what communities my viewers come from, because conveniently enough, Twitch provides you with all of this information, and it is so helpful if you know how to use this data correctly. Like just seeing where you have mutual like viewers from, like, oh, I don't know this content creator, but 20% of my viewers come from this person. Maybe I should check them out. And that's how you also create like community. You engage with other content creators, and in turn you guys are helping yourself to reach that goal of where you want to reach the best monetization for both of your your content. Use that data. It is literally there. Go to your dashboard, go to your analytics tab, click through all of them. There's so much that you can do with that data, like when your peak times are. Is your audience a morning audience or a night audience? Those things definitely matter. And if you use that data effectively, you're going to be on the up and up. But
yeah.
Another thing I wanted to caveat off it too is I know I mentioned being burnt out in games. You mentioned being burnt out on games. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do to a game that no longer brings you joy? One thing that I struggled with actually accepting is listen to your chat sometimes. Sometimes your chat will be like, oh, I heard about this game. Have you tried it out? Before I used to be like, nah, I haven't heard of it. I don't care, whatever. But now I'm like, no, I haven't heard that game. Let's watch the trailer, bring it up on YouTube. And like, so far, like most of the games that I've done that with, I'm like, oh, and it's free. I'll try it out. And then next thing you know, I'm doing viewer games in my community and people end up liking that. And so it's another thing for you to realize too is even though you are monetizing your channel and if you're taking it a little bit more seriously, it doesn't negate the fact that you can listen to your chat sometimes. Sometimes you have the right answer.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Not all the time.
Not all the time. And again, like I think it comes back to that idea of like, well, how are they bringing it to you, right? Like it's again, it's that like, hey, I know that you play this game a ton. There's also this other game that's like super similar. I wonder if you'd be interested in it versus this is dumb. Play that instead. Boo, boring. Like,
yeah.
you know, but
listen to your mods.
Yes. Oh my God.
CJ's been my mod since like 2019, 2018. And he can tell you from who I used to be like, oh, I don't want to play that game. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
To now where it's like, okay, I'll see what you have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like one of my mods is in the chat as well. And like, you know, my mods can always tell because they're the people that I entrust with like the custodianship of my channel. They've been with me forever and they know when I'm not having fun. They know when I'm like, his mood's not great. Like sends me a DM in Discord like, bro, you good? Like, what's up?
Right?
You know?
Hey,
yeah, there, Roz right there. Yeah. But that's literally it. Like, you know, your mods are your mods for a reason. Your mods are, you know, the people that you trust to handle your channel and handle the moderation of your channel. And mods have incredible power because they're the people that you trust. And so, you know, hopefully people are modding, you know, the people in their lives that they can trust with this amount of power.
Yes, that is very important. Don't mod just anybody.
Don't just mod anybody. I feel like that goes without saying, but listen,
you never know.
You never know.
Streamers probably don't know.
But like I remember this is personal anecdote time. I remember we were playing Sekiro. We were on the final boss of Sekiro, and I had devoted, or no. Sorry, this is the final boss of Dark Souls 3, and I had devoted a full 4-hour stream to this one boss fight, and I was just not like something was not clicking in my brain, and my mod hopped into the chat and was like, it's time for a break, dude. It's time for a break. And maybe not the best anecdote because I didn't listen to them. And I did one more, but they made me promise. They were just like, you get one more try at this. And that's it. You get one more try. And if you don't get it on this try, you're ending stream and you're doing it next time. And that honestly was enough motivation for me to like lock in and beat the boss on that last push. And it was an incredible moment, but like that was all born of a genuine concern for like my health and my well-being in that moment of like, dude, you're stressed, like relax, like it's time for you to stop.
And it kind of stacks on top of how you don't realize how mentally taxing streaming can be.
Yes.
If you were offline, you probably would have been fine doing that. But if you're streaming in front of an audience, people are watching, you have to be entertaining, engaging, you know?
I was apologizing to people like, I'm so sorry. I've been doing this for 4 hours. Like, I know that it's not fun watching me like fail this again and again. And like chat was like, it's okay. We're here for this. We're here to watch the struggle. Like we want to see you beat this, but also like we're paying attention. Like there's a reason we're paying attention. So yeah, like listen to your mods, you know, if you've selected well, have your best interests in mind and, you know, just want you to succeed and want you to do well and want you to, you know, be happy and healthy. And that's good. And those are all good things. But yeah, I wanted to dive back into the analytics portion because I think we're pretty much coming up on the end right now. Like, tell me, like, what are the stats? If you were to send everybody here, like, hey, every streamer here right now, open up your analytics tab, set up the chart this way, tell me what you see. Like, what is the most meaningful, like, piece of data that you come back to and are like, this is like data point number one that I look at?
It's the viewership to hours ratio, I think. Because for me, like I said, I did the experiment where time doesn't always equal money. So now it's kind of like, okay, you gotta analyze when you stream, like the time that you stream matters, how long you stream, and where you retain your viewership throughout those X hours. Because that is when, if you want to, I guess, have the best financial monetization for that day, that's what you would pay attention to. That's what you would work around. So that's what I look at personally, is the viewership to hours and the time slot ratio. I guess.
Yeah.
I like, it's not an exact formula, but to me it's a formula in my head.
Yeah, and it's something that can inform you of like, oh, okay, like this is, the 40% of the people that watch my stream, start to drop off around the 3.5 hour mark, or start to drop off around the 2 hour mark. Is it something, and this is important for everybody who's about to go, into this exercise, because I do encourage everybody, if you're looking to monetize your content, if you're looking to really start being business minded about your content creation, like I said before, you cannot ignore your analytics, you cannot ignore your numbers. But it's also very, very important to remember that your numbers are not explicitly like a reflection of your worth as a creator, or especially not your worth as a person.
Right.
Very important to remember that.
The amount of money that you have indicates the kind of person you are. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And so it's as you are going through and looking through your analytics, it's important to remind yourself of like, oh, this is, I am purely looking at this from an analytical perspective, because I think that it's very easy. And I was once described by a friend as a what you see is what you get creator. I don't put on like any like big characters. I don't put on like any sort of like pretty much who I am on stream is who I am out in real life at TwitchCon. Like, this is just me as a person, right?
Right.
But what that means, especially for somebody who doesn't put on a character and who doesn't doesn't have the separation between stream me and real life me, is that real life me now has analytics to tie to my mood. And like real life me now has, at the 2 hour mark, 30% of people are no longer interested in real life me. And it is very hard not to take that personally, and not to take that and write that into the core of your being. So I urge you, as you are going through your analytics, to always keep that in the back of your head of like, these are just my numbers. These are just my numbers. They're good pieces of data and I can learn from them. They have no bearing on who I am as a person. And don't get too tied up into that, because the moment that you let yourself tie your self-worth to your analytics, the moment like all of those anxieties and all of those fears and all of that panic starts to like really creep in. And that can affect you no matter how much money you are making on stream. Like, it can just be your viewership numbers. It can be your monetization numbers. It can be anything. But
you can take that info and flip it too.
Yeah.
So after those 2 hours, you could either end stream, or you could be like, all right, let's switch to another game, or let's switch to something else completely,
Yep.
Let's do something that'll engage the viewers, like, or just something in that regard.
Yep.
Definitely to switch it up.
No, and that's exactly it. Is it's something to learn from, right? It is something to look at and say like, okay, if consistently at 2 hours this keeps happening, what can I do to make sure that we are lifting that energy back up at 2 hours? Okay. Hey, guess what? We've been live for 2 hours. It's time for everybody to get up and do 5 jumping jacks. Let's go. Like, come on. Like, like there's ways to go about, flipping those data points on their head. It's so easy to get caught up in the, wow, I guess like I'm not a good enough entertainer to like keep people engaged for 2 hours. No, Think about how you can re-engage viewers at 2 hours. Think about how you can change things up at 2 hours. Think about why after 2 hours, like maybe your viewership's dropping off. Like, what can I change? What can I do differently? What can I do better? That's what your data is telling you. And it is so important to listen to your data, to listen to those pieces of analytics that can help you engage your audience better, because what works for one person is not going to work for everybody.
Every situation's different.
every stream is different. Every community is different. You know, what works for Sana's channel is not necessarily going to work for mine. Maybe my channel doesn't want to get up and do jumping jacks. I don't know. Like, you know, maybe that's just the time at which it's like, okay, let's take a break from the game. Let's go browse Reddit and talk, like answer some questions, you know, like it's going to be different for every single creator.
Get back and watch some YouTube videos or something.
Yeah, it's going to be different. So you need to experiment. You need to take those risks, and you need to try. Like, it's so easy to stagnate. It is so easy to just keep doing the same thing again and think, okay, I guess at 2 hours, oh well. At 2 hours, oh well, no big deal.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Just keep doing the same thing and just disregarding it. That's not what.
Yeah. So pay attention to your numbers. Like, if this is the direction that you, and I think that's crucial to say as well. Like, not everybody wants to monetize their content, right? Mm. I know that's been the subject of today's stream, but not everybody wants to monetize their content. Not everybody wants to take it seriously like a business, and that's totally fine.
People do it for fun too.
Yeah, that is okay. Like, you can absolutely just stream for the heck of it, and there is nothing wrong with that. And I want to make sure that that's very clear. Like, there is no, like, that is not a wrong way to stream. But if you are, you know, in the position of wanting to take it seriously, like, you gotta treat it like a business. You gotta look at your analytics. You gotta do all of those things that people tell you. Oh, just turn off your viewership count. Like, don't look at your numbers. Don't look at your VODs. Your VOD is done. Like, no, do VOD reviews. So that's what you said. Like, you know, you did a VOD review and it was like, oh God, like, I didn't realize this about myself. And
about the viewership and whatnot, I will say, I know it works for a lot of people. It's okay to have your viewership off while you're streaming.
Yeah.
But definitely go back and reassess what it is you were pulling while you were streaming, while doing a VOD review.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. So I think we are just about at the end of our time. This has been an absolutely amazing conversation. It's been a really open and honest one too. And so
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing, you know, the candor that I think this topic needs. Please, once again, tell everybody where people can find you, tell people about the kind of content you make, tell everybody where they can go follow you.
Sure. I am a part-time, full-time-ish streamer at the moment. Like I said, transitioning, but I do go live most days, Sana Vibes with 2 eyes on all my socials. That is Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, SoundCloud, Linktree. Like, it's all the same across the board. Sana Vibes, 2 eyes. Especially my SoundCloud, if you guys want to listen to the music that I recently have coming out. I just recently made that account if you guys want to take a listen. My music is also copyright royalty free, so if you guys want to listen while you're streaming too, feel free to do that as well. On Twitch, I mostly play Overwatch 2 ranked. I have been playing a lot more Fortnite as well, so if you guys are into that kind of content, feel free to tune in live for that content as well. And on my other socials, you can keep up with me, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. I usually post clips, but I also post stuff outside of streaming IRL. So if you want to keep up with me there, and my Discord, same thing. Sana Vibes, 2 eyes everywhere.
Amazing. And if you're not sick of listening to me talk yet, I go by Nubbins Inc. pretty much everywhere on the internet. I am, in case you missed it, the social media person here at Streamlabs, and so I'm very lucky to get to have these conversations and very lucky to, you know, be able to impart some of this knowledge onto the next generation of streamers. I generally play a lot of Valorant and Helldivers 2. Right now on a bit of a hiatus, but typically I am live Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. I will be going back live soon, probably next week. So if you want to come watch some chaotic gameplay and screaming at my friends about all of the things, then that's where you can find me, Nubbins Inc. Pretty much everywhere: Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, yeah, all basically Instagram, all major social media platforms. So, Sana, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having this conversation. Hope that everybody in the chats has learned something and take something away from this. So yeah, we'll go ahead and let everybody get back to their days. But I just want to say thank you for being a part of this, Sana. Thank everybody in the chat for being here and listening and asking questions and just engaging with the content. I try to do these streams weekly. It's difficult with workload, but if you haven't gotten enough of this kind of content yet, definitely make sure you're checking out Streamlabs on Instagram, Streamlabs on TikTok. We try and post. There are VODs that have other creators that I've spoken with uploaded right on YouTube. So definitely scroll through some of those and take a look, and there's a lot you can learn from the streams that we've done. So yeah, I think I'm gonna get back to work, and Sana can get back on with the rest of your day. But thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and letting me be able to make this kind of content on here. So yeah, and with that, I think we'll just say have a great rest of your day and happy streaming, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.